Hi, everyone. It is 8:03 on Thursday evening. I apologize for being a little late, but you are watching Portraits of Faith. I am Father Rob Sinatra. Pardon me, I got a cough drop too and broken half. And I am the pastor of St. Padre Pio Parish here in Vineland, New Jersey. And this evening's guest for Portraits of Faith on November the 12th, 2020 is my good friend, Kevin Dillon. Kevin, how are you this evening?
Wonderful. How are you?
Good. So glad that you're able to make it on the program. You have saved my bacon, sir. I appreciate it.
I'm a guest of somebody. That's awesome.
And a good guest too. So we're just going to start with a prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Come, Holy Spirit, fill the hearts of your faithful, and kindle in us the fire of your divine love. Send forth your Spirit, and we shall be created, and you shall renew the face of the earth. Lord, we ask you to send your Spirit upon us, to guide us and strengthen us, that everything we say and do is not for ourselves, but for your greater glory. And we ask this in all things through Christ our Lord. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Saint Josephat, pray for us. Today is the memorial of Saint Josephat. He's pretty cool. He was a Ruthenian Catholic who helped bring back unity and communion with the East and the West. So very cool. And gave up his life for his faith, which is pretty awesome if you ask me. So Kev, just to give you a background, as I turn off my sound to my other computer. When in March of last year, we had the convocation for lay leaders. And one of the main keys for them is, and one of the common themes that they talked about over and over and over again was to share your story of faith. So when the pandemic hit, I thought, now here's the opportunity, because I wanted to do this for a while, just didn't have the impetus to do it. So the goal was to find people and just have them tell their story, about their faith life, about growing up. If there had any been times that they had strayed a little bit, what that was like coming back, the whole 9 yards. So you are my victim, guest for this evening. So I'm going to ask you the first question that I ask everybody. What is the earliest memory you have of your faith or church or a relationship with God or whatever? What would that be?
My earliest memory has always, everything has been in the church. Our family's been in the church. There's one of six, and we're walking distance from the parish. We've always gone to church. Once I went to college, we went to church there. There's times where you drift off a little bit and miss here and there, but for the most part, I've grown up around the church. I went to Catholic grade school, went to Catholic high school, went to Catholic college, and it's just stemmed from there, and I've kept it up ever since.
Now, what was your home parish growing up?
Our Lady of Calvary up in Philadelphia, up by Franklin Mills Mall.
Okay. And was there any priest there that that had an impact on you while you were growing up?
Yeah, there were several. There was Father Gillespie was a really great priest later on, and he actually, when I met my wife, she was not Catholic, and I didn't want to force anything on anybody, but we went through to get her ready for she became Catholic, and we went over and he met with us privately and did everything. He was really great. He's very good friends of the family and everything. It was really wonderful. And I remember there was a priest, Father Marzalek, he was the first priest that I remember he was like the first wireless priest. He was like the Phil Donahue of priests. He would he would walk off the altar and he would like ask questions to people. And so when he started strolling, you got nervous because he was going to talk directly to you, and he was all mic'd up. And it was probably back in the 70s. So it was something that was like, no one else did that. Everybody's up at the pulpit. So it was kind of neat that he was that innovative and had the technology put in to do his own thing. And One of my favorite priests was he taught at Archbishop Ryan, which is where I went to high school. And then on the weekends, he taught some of the masses, Father Carl. And he was a character, but he was really like, once you got to know him, he was great. People like would go to his masses because they were like, he's got the shortest masses, and people would give him a hard time because like people would say, well, he just rushes through the masses. And once you got to know him, that wasn't the case. Like he would have these, and they were really well written sermons. And I was talking to him, and I said, like, explain like when you're up there, what's like. He said, it's you don't know what it's like up there. He said, when you have stuff to say, people, you get 10 minutes in and people start looking around, they start talking to each other. And so like, you either need to be dynamic, and what he had to say was great. He was not a dynamic speaker. And I think that's kind of what got him doing that. But he said what he had to say in a very direct fashion to get the information across while he had everyone's attention. And sitting in the pews, you don't see it from that aspect. And I thought it was really interesting.
So growing up, your family seems to be pretty faith-filled. That a family that kind of prays together kind of stays together. Were there any crises of faith for you growing up at all? You said that there were times that you strayed here and there. Was there anything that happened while you were younger that either on the positive or the negative that affected your faith life and the way that you view the church?
Yeah, I mean, there's been times where it was a crisis of faith. I don't know that I left the church again. When I was in college, you get caught up in the college thing. You don't make it to mass every week and stuff like that. So, there was a time there. I dated a girl when I was in my 20s, and she always seemed to want to plan something to do on a Sunday, and it started to kind of pull away from me. And once I realized what that was doing, that was like the beginning of the end. It just wasn't working for me that way, because it really was taken away from something that I wanted to do, and it was important to me. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, there's been times where, I mean, my wife had breast cancer and she was going through that, and then my daughter was going through some issues at the same time, and then I was having issues with my boss at work, and it was all piled on at the same time, and it was like almost a breaking point, and I was kind of ranting in my car, like, what more can I do? And I went through all that, but I don't say I started to get more angry about stuff, but I never really strayed. Mm-hmm. And again, eventually it all worked out. I didn't leave, and I didn't kind of turn my back on God or anything, but it was a very stressful time. And without him, I don't know that I would have made it through.
Well, that's awesome. To learn about, radical dependence on God. So let me ask you this quick, because this is the first I'd heard of stuff like that before. Was your girlfriend planning things on Sundays so you couldn't go to church? Was that her goal?
I don't think so. It was just, that was the way her family worked, and they were not very, I mean, they went to church occasionally, but they were not really that into it. And I just, I don't know, I didn't want to get involved with somebody that for the rest of my life and find myself pulled away and then be resentful. So it really worked out well that way. Mm-hmm. And as you get older and you go to places and you're trying to find a place that, you move into a new house, you got to find where the church is at, and if it's hard to get to. I mean, when I grew up, my whole life, all the way through high school, we could leave for mass at 2:00 and get there in time. So when we were, and we were a little bit late usually. It's like we're right there, we can see it from where we're at. But no, we were always involved in the church. I mean, I was an altar server in growing up. And, when we moved here, my kids were altar servers, and my wife was a Eucharistic minister, and I taught CCD for 15 years. I was on the parish council because somebody volunteered me. So, but I
don't know who that would be. I have no idea who that would be.
But you know what? They called, so I was like, sure, however I can help. So I put my time in to do things with the church, and I found it really, really rewarding to do that. You get to meet people, and you start congregating around the church when you're not supposed to be at church, and it becomes more part of your life. And I really liked that time of my life. I've gotten away from that a little bit. I mean, we still go to church, but hanging out with the core parish and having people.
I think somebody is trying to send me a message. Hold on one second.
That's, you know what? That's better than that door opening all by itself. So that's much less scary.
Somebody wants to go out. Hold on. Go. Good boy. If anybody watches Portraits of Faith, they know that Batman oftentimes will come in and out in the middle of a thing. So you talked about the importance of community and the church really being the center of the life of the people who are part of it. What did all of your brothers and I know, forgive me, Archbishop Brian, was it that co-ed or was that boys or girls?
It was a girls' school and a boys' school, divided by the chapel. The chapel was placed right in the center to keep us apart. So we could see the girls. We just couldn't be over there mingling with the girls. It is co-ed now. But when I was there was Ryan for boys and Ryan for girls.
Okay. Now, did your parents put all of you guys through Archbishop Brian? Yes,
every one of us. I did do a calculation.
Wow. That's a bit of an investment, even back in the day, because I know Catholic education at that point was heavily subsidized by parishes and things like that. But still, there wasn't a financial. And what's the age difference between everybody?
See, my sister is the oldest. She's probably 64, and I'm 57. My brother's just turned 50. He'll be 51 next month. So. Okay. He was a straggler. There's like 2 years apart almost from everybody. And then, of course, I always, you get into things like, do I say there's 6 of us? There actually were 7 of us. My oldest brother passed away before I was born. So he was, but that was, from my perspective, he never really around. So it's hard to kind of put him in the mix.
Mm-hmm. Was that something that you think affected your family in general, or?
I think it did. I mean, I personally don't know how my parents got through that. My brother was, I think, 6, 8, something like that, and he got hit by a car. Somebody dared him to walk across the street with his eyes closed, and a car hit him. And it was devastating. My mom was devastated, and they had. I don't know if my brother was born yet. So there was, I think, 3 kids left, and they went on and had 3 more kids. I don't know how, again, without their faith, how do you not just curl up in a chair? Right. And that's devastating. So they've been very active in the church. They're 90 now. So they still get over there when they can, but they've always helped out. My mom was, Eucharistic minister probably till about 1.5 years ago. Mm-hmm. So she was still going over, and it's like, you know what, you can just relax. It was a chore, but she insisted she had to do it. It was a thing she couldn't just back off on because she's lived her life that whole way.
Mm-hmm. Flo is a friend from Kentucky, and we both went to Camden Catholic. She's been a faithful viewer of Portraits of Faith. And we went to the same high school together, Camden Catholic. So when she first started going to Camden Catholic, the tuition was $50 a year. Can you imagine? Wow. $50 a year.
No, that was probably a lot of money back then.
It was.
Well, you figure you have that. And I mean, when we were in grade school, and there were 6 of us. So you're talking about 6, Catholic school uniforms that have to be washed and ironed and set up. That's a full-time job right there.
Right. Right.
And there's, and then there's expense that you had to go to the Catholic school store. Well, I guess it was the St. Jude's school store or something, but you had to go and get your uniforms at a particular place. So, the white shirt and the blue pants and the blue tie and all that stuff had to go, and it had to be, you had to have the same thing for 5 days a week. That's no easy task.
I forget the name of the company. It's killing me right now. Maybe somebody can remember. I know it had a shamrock on it. They did both Philly and us. I can't think of it. I'm gonna have to look it up. Because I know my sister sends her two youngest at this point to Camden Catholic, and I know the uniforms come from the same spot. So yeah, there's a monopoly. There's somebody who has a monopoly on Catholic school uniforms in the area. Anytime during your childhood and teenage years, did you ever think about being a priest?
I did. The girlfriend that I was talking about, we were actually engaged for a little bit, and it didn't work out. And I was kind of floundering around and just kind of getting back on my feet. And I was in church, and I just started praying and saying, am I getting the calling? Do you want me to be a priest? And it's like, just give me a clear sign. And it turned out that I don't think I was getting the calling. I was just asking. So, but yeah, I considered it.
Mm-hmm. And I think we talked one time. I've known Kevin since my time at St. Charles Borromeo, where we became good friends. What was I going to go with this? Oh yeah, that you said that one of the big reasons why you didn't become a priest was because you met Barb.
Yes.
God put Barb in your life.
He did. And it was one of those things. It's funny because it's like, God will give you a sign. When I was praying, it was like, don't give me some vague sign that I can interpret as, yes or no. I need a clear, defined, like that's it. Like that's, he gave me that. It was no, there was no interpreting the tea leaves thing. It was a direct answer. And I really knew that was, a direct answer to the question I asked. So there's, again, it really kind of, you get those over the course of your life. And it's like, how is there any question? There's definitely somebody out there keeping an eye on you.
Absolutely. And he answers prayers, maybe not always in the way that we expect him to, or in the manner that we expect him to, but he does answer them.
No, and a lot of times if you get the answer and it's not the one you want, you look back years later and go, yeah, I'm glad he didn't answer what I was asking.
Yeah, Saint Teresa of Avila says that there is more consternation and anxiety over answered prayers than those that go unanswered. So what Catholic college? I didn't know you went to Catholic college. What college did you go to?
LaSalle.
LaSalle. Okay. Now, why?
It was a Christian Brothers school, but
right. Well, they're Catholic,
yeah.
Sort of. No, I kid. Now, did you pick LaSalle because it was a Catholic school?
No. I'm in an interview with a priest. I can't even make up anything good. I gotta say the truth. I got a couple of schools I was interested, but I went to LaSalle because that's where my friends were going.
Oh, okay.
so not the scholastic choice you would expect. But I was the number one drafting student in my mechanical drawing class, and the guy was going to write me a letter of recommendation for a scholarship to the number one drafting school in the United States, which was in Miami.
Ooh.
And I went to LaSalle because my friends went there. So I'm not an architect, and I have my LaSalle degree. That's right. So, but they had a lot of really good stuff. And I found one of the things that was neat there was the chapel that was set up and the way they did the college intimate little services that they did. It was different than going to like church every Sunday. It was different. It was a little more intimate. We had growing up friends of ours. Their uncle was a priest, and at North Catholic, and we would have there were certain times where we would have to go to mass, and we would have like a private thing, and it's a really different feel for having, a small group of people that and having a full mass. It's something that, I don't know, you think, oh, I don't know if I want to do that. And you go, and it's like, I really like this. I like this intimate feel.
Mm-hmm. And well, it's interesting. Christian Brothers are pretty much that, brothers. They're the male form of religious. So we have religious sisters and we have religious brothers. They're part of the laity, but they enter into consecrated life. They choose only a couple number of them to become priests, and it's only to celebrate mass for the rest of the community. So, but for the most part, they enter into their charism, which is, of course, teaching. And I was we had a priest at one point at the diocese who was a former Christian brother who left the Christian Brothers and joined the diocesan priesthood. And we were talking about it. And I don't know if this is your experience because you went to the college level, that there were, I guess, a lot of religious on both sides of the aisle that, was like Sister Bruce Lee or, Brother Kung Fu. And once like corporal punishment left the educational system, that they lost their ability to teach, that was that. I mean, I don't know what it was like to have Christian Brothers as instructors at LaSalle. How many did you have?
I'd probably say 4 or 5 of them. I mean, there's a few professors that have really stuck in my head, but yeah, I mean, I had about 4 or 5 Christian Brothers as teachers. The whole, trying to adapt to the post corporal type of thing, that seemed to be more the nuns in grade school than they were. Some of them they took charge anyway, and I think that they needed to control the class, and they were very authoritative. It was impressive.
Well, when you have 50, 60 kids in a classroom, you have to use something to maintain control. And some people were fair and even-handed with it, and some had issues. So, now, let me ask you this question. When you went to college at LaSalle, did he come in yet? Oh my gosh, I might have to let him back in. I think he's barking to come back in. Father Al might be upstairs, might let him in. So hopefully he does. If not, I'll let him in. How was your mass attendance in college? Did you do okay with that, or did you struggle a little bit? Did you?
I struggled with I went the first 3 years. I commuted, so I was home on the weekend. So I was pretty good. My senior year, I lived on campus, and my attendance was spotty at that point.
When you got back, I guess, did you start going back on your own, or like, did you go back home first? Like,
yeah, I kind of made there was things going on, you're a senior in college and it's your first year it's like that your first year on campus and senior year combined into one thing, which is not a good mix. So you got busy with the people that you met and you were doing stuff, and life kind of overshadowed your faith. And that's, once I graduated and got back home, I really regretted that. And I started going back, and I felt great about going back. So that's one of the things that I wanted to make sure that I kept with. Again, and back then, as I always thought, if I met somebody and they're not into going to church, that if they're the right person for me and they're great, that's wonderful. But I'm going to continue to do that regardless. So fortunately, it's worked out. So I didn't have to kind of pick and choose.
So how did you meet Barb?
I met Barb bowling. My brother needed somebody to be his fourth on a team. So I joined a team with me, my brother, my sister-in-law, and her sister. And, we were just something to do on Sunday night. Get me out of the house. At the same time, friends of Barb's needed somebody, and they dragged her along, and she was bowling, and, she was this cute redhead, in the bowling lane. So, she would be bowling in the lane next to us. And I would kind of like let her go first. And I would just kind of chat with her. And then you'd hear people yelling, it's your turn to bowl. So, so I thought I was being all kind of clever and just kind of chatty. And she was like, yeah, you were very obvious. So not my strong suit. So then we just started hanging out and doing stuff with friends. We went like canoeing one time, and like she was in a different canoe. Me and her friend were in a different canoe. So we're kind of doing the friend thing. And I was interested, but I didn't want to kind of scare her away. I didn't want to blow the whole friendship thing. As I was kind of getting into a new circle of friends. And we were going to a concert one night. And she called and I said, yeah, we're going to this concert. She said, oh, I really like them. And I said, yeah, me and my cousin are going down. She said, oh, I always wanted to see them. And I said, yeah, that's, I said, they're a great band. And after about 10 minutes, she's like, can I go? So wasn't picking up on the clues. So I told her to get in the car and come up, and she was late because she was getting all, dolled up, and she looked great. And we went there, and that was kind of, I guess, our first date.
Uh-huh.
But it wasn't real. We just went to a concert in my head. So we actually had to go out and go on a first date, and it went from there. But yeah, it started out bowling. So, and I got after the year they had awards, and I got the most improved bowler, which wasn't great, but I improved from where I started. And she got the lowest score. Mm-hmm. So she got a keychain with like a 68 or something. So, yeah. So we both were recognized for our bowling skills.
Yeah, I just want to make sure he's not eating something. Hang on. Hold on. What you got there? What you got? Oh, it's his football. You're allowed to have that. Go ahead. Resume. He took it and just went, oh, okay, thank you. I can take this out now. Because I forgot his football was in my office.
Was he practicing on his spiral?
He, you know what? He's the most uncoordinated dog ever. As fast as he is, as just like, active as he is, he's got no coordination ever. Like he's getting better with catching things, but it's crazy. It's crazy. So what are you gonna do? Now Barb was not Catholic to begin with. What religion was she?
She was. I termed her a pagan baby because she was never anything. So I think unofficially she said that she might have been Catholic because at some point her Catholic friend baptized her in the sink when they were in like first or second grade or something. But I think her mom was like Episcopalian and her dad was Catholic, but he wasn't always practicing. So they just didn't do anything. Mm-hmm. But she hung around with friends that were Catholic, so she kind of knew what was going on, and she kind of she would get in trouble and get, she would get grounded for like 2 weeks. But if her friends were going to church, her dad would let her to go to church with them. So she would go to church with her Catholic friends just so she could get out of the house. So
like she was grounded.
Church, and she got exposure to it. So it was, but she was never any faith. Mm-hmm. And so I left it up to her, and she decided to do it.
By the way, for anybody who is watching, and by the way, Judy's watching. Judy, we hope you're doing well. God bless you. It's always good to hear from her. Oh, who's calling me? Oh, it's a telemarketer from Atlantic City. Great. Good. At least it tells me it's a telemarketer. That people of a certain generation were asked to pray for the pagan babies.
Yeah, exactly.
In China, that there would also be a little rice bowl kind of give some money, put a quarter in a week or something for the pagan babies.
Yes, for the pagan babies. And if you collected $5, you got to name one.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was you would get a thing, and like there was a picture of a baby. It was like there were boy ones and girl ones, and you would pick them up, and after you would put some of your milk money or your pretzel money in the class, and once you collected $5, and then everyone in the class would pick a name, and you would write their name on this thing, and you would post it in the class, and you would see how many pagan babies we could save, and that was kind of the thing back in the 70s. So that was kind of when I told when Barb said she wasn't anything. I said, so you're a pagan baby. I said, we used to collect money and name people like you. So,
I'm sure that went over great.
so yeah, so I mean that was and it sounds weird now, but back then it was we even as young grade school kids, we gave of the our pretzel money and milk money and stuff that we were given, again, a quarter, a nickel, a dime, and we put it in to help these children that the nuns told us that we were helping.
Mm-hmm.
And we did give from what we had, and so you were doing that without realizing how much you were giving, and you look back and now think that's pretty nice. I mean, again, that's a nickel, dime, and a quarter back then was something. That was a little carton of chocolate milk, so you had to give that up.
Yeah, absolutely. Now she came into the church before you guys got married.
Correct.
Okay. Was that like kind of like right before, or like a year or two before, or just like?
No. Probably within a year before.
Okay. And what was it like once you finally were able to go to mass as a couple, and as both practicing Catholics? What was that like?
And it was good. It was nice to know that I had somebody that was going to be following me, and we were going to be going to church together for the rest of our lives, and it wasn't somebody that I was going to have to, coax into it or do whatever. What I really like when she was going through her the name escapes me, the lessons to become Catholic.
RCIA.
Yeah, well, it was kind of RCIA, but it was like this private chat. It wasn't even like we just met there for every Wednesday night for a couple months, and it was like, this is for her, and I'm just sitting there, and I learned a lot along with her. It's like, I forgot about that, or it's like, I never knew that. And he gave out information and stuff that it was a really nice refresher course for me. Mm-hmm. So I kind of went through it with her. So we really started our Catholic journey at that moment. Not like our first mass was kind of like we're there, but going through her training and lessons, we kind of went through it together, and it was, I really enjoyed those Wednesday nights. Were fantastic. We really got a lot out of it.
Oh, that's great. So you have two children, Aaron and Riley, who are really great. I can't say they're kids anymore. Aaron is a grown woman, eventually going to be married someday in the near future, God willing.
Should have been last year, but it was postponed till next year. So hopefully that's still on track. Yeah, but they're and she rolled with it, and it's nice to know that she wasn't overwhelmed by changes in things, because things don't always work out.
And also too, it shows your influence, because she wants to be married. Like, she has her idea of her dream wedding, right? And
she does.
And she also too wants to be married in the church in conjunction with that dream wedding. And you don't see that very often in people. Like young people oftentimes want their dream wedding and then that's it. But these are people who are at least honest. And even though we didn't get a chance to continue everything we're supposed to do, we'll get to that. But they're really a joy to work with, to get rolling with, and we'll continue the instruction so that they can be married in the church. So that's great that they made the effort.
It is. It makes me really proud of both of them, because I didn't want. I know Chris, her fiance, his father is also Catholic. He's like a Eucharist minister, and so, but I didn't want them to get married in the church for me. I wanted to make sure that you're not just doing it for me, because then it's kind of hollow. Mm-hmm. And I find it there's more meaning to it than just showing up because your dad wants you to. So when they were talking to you, I said, like, it's your thing, like, work it out. But like, I'm not, if you need something from me, fine. but I'm not there. So they're doing it on their own because they want to do it.
Hmm.
And that means a lot. That means more to me than knowing that they're doing it just because they feel like they have to because of me.
Right. So let's take a step back. You taught religious ed for 15 years. How did you get started in doing that?
I started out when Erin was in. I went to one of the, you know, we'll lure the parishioners down in the basement with donuts and then say, hey, volunteer for stuff. So I said, I'm not a teacher. I'm not. I don't do, stand in front of classes or live interviews on Facebook or anything like that. So they said, well, you can do, like, if you could be an aide. I said, I'll be an aide. I'll help out whoever's there. So I took over, or I was aiding in a 5th grade class, and 2 weeks in, the teacher left. And then I was the teacher because I was the only one left. And so I took it over, and I kind of got comfortable doing it. And I just followed the instructions and did whatever the book said. And so it became that it just kind of happened. Again, one of those things that, like, you find that kind of divine intervention. It's like I meant they kind of lured me. I'm not coming in and teaching, but they lured me in on helping, and then I got teaching. And so I did 5th grade for a bunch of years, and that's a good age because
That is a good age. I like 5th grade.
They participate. They're not unruly. You get some weird questions, but nothing horrific, and they're fun. They're a fun kid. So I was doing that, and I planned on continue doing that. And then the head of the CCD program said, "Yeah, no, you're a guy, and we need you to teach 8th grade." Because so they had me teach 7th and 8th grade because they're a little more unruly. And I was like, whatever you need me to do. So they put me in charge of the doing 8th grade, and they did an 8th grade, and then they did a thing where they did 7th grade, and then you moved with them to 8th grade, so you had the same class 2 years in a row, which was interesting. I mean, you get to know the kids, you get to know, you sit down and you take attendance the first week or so, and it's like you can see, like, that kid's going to be a problem, that kid's going to be a problem. and you adjust the class accordingly, and you have to know how to play them. So and you want to get the religious education to them without you got to get them to participate. We don't want to shut them off. So it was fun. So we did that for a while. I taught with somebody else, Mary Jane Guy. We did it together, and that worked out great because we complemented each other. And we got along really well. And then I think one of the kids asked one time, they're like, "Are you guys married?" They're like, no, we're not married. We got along really well. All of a sudden, we're like, well, no, that's not what we were going for. So then I was teaching by myself, and then you're doing a double class. And then I taught for a couple of years, Frank Adams. I think he's still teaching. We had like 2 big classes with a big divider, and we decided, and like sometimes he couldn't make it, sometimes I couldn't make it. So we just decided to open up the divider and teach a throng of kids together. And we did that for a while, and that was great. I mean, I think we really got, we got a lot of kids. It's weird because, like, there's the kids that are there, they're responsive, they're all into it. And there's the kids that don't want to be there. They're not interested. And then 5-6 years later, you bump into them and they're like, hey, and they're a lot of the kids that were the angst of the class are the people that seem to have gotten the most out of it. So you got to teach them all, waiting to see who you can get. You don't know. You got to hope that it gets through to some. I found that amazing. There was a girl, Laurel, that was, she was great. They had a bunch of kids. They were always, joking around and doing stuff. And years later, we were walking the mall, and like you just hear across the mall, she's just, "Erin, your dad's awesome." And she's like, "How do you know her?" I'm like, "I don't know." She was in my CCD class. But I mean, there's something clicked. And as it got older, she must have gotten something out of it. I had somebody who was like in 5th grade, and then they were in 7th and 8th grade, and they were like the big man on campus. They were always, the light had to shine on them. They were always clowning for attention. You'd have any questions you need to ask about, about religion, and he would always find something that was awkward to talk about. It was just like, and but he was respectful, but he was just that kind of guy. And then after 8th grade, it's like, well, I'm never going to see him again. And he called me over the summer and asked if he could aid my class the next year. And I was like, what? He was really interested in. He was asking those weird questions and trying to, just poke the class a little bit. But he was asking to get information, and he helped my class the next year. And I thought it was hard for him because he was only like a year older than the class, so they could relate to him better than they can relate to me. So it was a very interesting dynamic. So I got a lot out of the CCD program. I really enjoyed it.
And what was parish council like for you?
Interesting. It's, it's boardroom stuff. There's things that the parish has to do, and people are, voicing their opinions and stuff. It was okay. I mean, I think I did it for 2 years. I enjoyed. I mean, some of the times it was a little problematic to go, but there was a lot of things that came out of it that were worthwhile. After 2 years, I was burned out though. CCD, I don't know, something came up and I didn't do it for a year, and I just never ended up going back and stuff. They changed the program where they were doing a lot of it in the summer and different things. But parish council was more of a job. It was, there were things in there that made it fulfilling and things, but it was not like go in there and sit back and kick around and have a good time. Right. It was try to get things in the parish set up for the parishioners and get things fixed and get programs working, and so. But it was a great experience to do, but it was a short shelf thing for me.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you get a chance to see stuff about parish life that you don't get a chance to see very often, because everybody just expects to show up and have everything be what it's supposed to be, and not really see kind of like the hard work and the effort that goes in behind the scenes, or the prayer that goes on behind the scenes to try and make things work. So, so you had a lot of stuff go on at pretty much in succession. Barb gets sick. Erin goes through her difficult times. And you lean on God. What was your prayer, and how did our Lord help you in those times?
No, I don't know. It was a formal prayer. It was, at some point it was just an exasperation. Like I need help. Like, I need you to help me out on this. For my whole life, I've always been told God never gives you more than you can carry. So as you're dealing with things and it's like, I'm going to get through this, God will help me through this. And then something else gets stacked on. And then something else gets stacked on. And at some point you feel, I can't do this. And in retrospect, he didn't give me more than I could handle. So I kind of prayed about it, and I yelled about it. I did whatever, but I used whatever I could with the church to get through it. And I was able to realize, again, through God's intervention, I was able to, he showed me that I can handle more than I thought that I could handle. Mm-hmm. And so when I got through it, it was amazing to me that I didn't crack, and by myself, I would have.
Now, what has COVID been like for you and your family in terms of faith? What was that like?
I was not, we just started going back to church, which is great. The wearing the mask is a thing, and you just adjust to the change in the environment. But when we're back in church, we're pretty much, you're there. It's for, better or worse, it's about the same. There's just, I mean, you're not shaking hands with people. You're not wearing a mask. But other than that, church is back, and it's nice to be back in church. Getting up in the morning and sitting and having a cup of coffee and watching it on the internet. I did that for a while because I felt like I should. I didn't get as much out of it and as going there. I like getting up and going there. So again, it was better than zero. But I watched some of them live, some of them you would watch them recorded and stuff, and it was good to get the readings and everything. But being in person, it means a lot to me, and it just getting yourself up, just to get up and get out of the house now, and to do that in a responsible way is great. It's great to be back at church.
Yeah, I just finished writing a letter to the parishioners, and it'll go out in like a week or two. And in part of it, because like I wanted it to be an article. I write an article in the Bulletin now every week, something that I didn't do before. I'm like, well, this is something that COVID has created. I must continue, and decided to. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I hear you, Flo. There are lots of people who do and feel like they can't go back. The diocese did a survey. They interviewed 1,500 people. Or thereabouts, and they got a variety of answers, and there are a group of people and their families for the most part that aren't coming back, and you kind of expected that families would be the last group to come back because parents have an overarching concern for their children. And they're acting out of a preponderance of caution and care. Oftentimes, families too are taking care of elderly loved ones who might be at an at-risk population, and they can't really risk exposing themselves, getting sick or whatever, and then bringing that to family members and friends. But as part of this is kind of like an invitation to come back, because out of the group that does come back and is at Mass every Sunday, like 80% of them feel super duper safe and comfortable, and are happy to be back. And Cardinal Sarah, Robert Cardinal Sarah, who's an African priest, an African cardinal who's in charge of the Congregation of Divine Worship and the discipline of the sacraments. So he's in charge of like the sacramental life of the church as a dicastery in Rome. Now that I've confused everybody, he's in charge of stuff revolving around the Mass and the sacraments. And he basically wrote a letter to all the bishops conferences in the world, and basically saying that, hey, look, all this online stuff is good and it's necessary and it's fulfilled a need, but it's not the same as us being at church, that we're meant to be communal. And while it's good to continue that, let's not lose sight of the thing that's most important, and that's celebrating Mass as a community of faith. Did you feel the community when you got back? Did you feel like a sense of a belonging or togetherness, or at least just like, hey, we're Catholic, we're here, and that's important?
I think it ramped up. I think as you go back, you're distanced. So, and that's one of the things about going, when you go back, you realize that you do feel safe there, because the pews divide up. The parish we're in has like the pews are actually have tape marks, and there's like, here's a tape mark for like 2 people to sit, and here's one for like a family of 4, and you go and they'll tell you where to sit. You don't just grab a chair, so they'll put you where you fit the best. And once you're there, I'm with my family, and we're not near anybody else. So we're perfectly safe. Everybody's got a mask on. Nobody's, trying to skirt that issue. And so I think there's a little bit less communal because you're not interacting with people, because you're not getting close to them. When you're done, you go, just get out. So, but you see people coming up, and you still see them talking in the parking lot on their way to their cars, so even that, just a little bit of conversation and a little bit of, you're all back in church and you feel good, and you can see that. And we're outside. It's the fresh air. We're still distant, but you're like talking to people on the way to the car, and that's a step in the right direction.
Mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Um, so we've gone almost 50 minutes, which is fantastic. Uh, See, I told you it wasn't hard. You did a good job. You did a good job.
Thank you.
So, does anybody have any questions, any comments to give to Kevin? And we have to realize that there's going to be about a 40-second delay between us asking a question, the people hearing it, them typing it, and then getting it back to us. So we're gonna, we'll wait a little bit to see if somebody has a question or an answer or comment, or they'll say they like your glasses or your sense of humor.
I was really tempted to wear my hat just because I didn't want to subject people to my hair, but
Hey, your hair is fine.
it was run a fish bone through it or something, trying to make it look decent.
Okay. Should play the Jeopardy music in honor of Alex Trebek.
Yeah. In fact, we taped the show tonight because I was preparing to do this. In other words, I was sitting in a chair trying to not have a panic attack. So we'll watch Jeopardy afterwards. So my brain
Is tomorrow the last one that he taped?
No, it goes through December. He taped like 30 episodes in like the course of like 2 weeks.
Wow.
So he wanted to get as much through I guess before the holiday break.
So my brother has a question. Thank you, Frankie. Any devotional prayers that you enjoy? The Rosary, anything like that?
Not recently. I remember when I was younger, my father would occasionally. It was not like a hey, like ask you a question. My dad didn't. He'd say, "Here, come with me," and he would take me to vocation for doing vocation, or what do you call it?
Block collection?
No. We go not a rosary. It was like novena.
Novena.
So he was, and he's like, here, and he would like he didn't feel like going by himself, so he said, come on. I mean, I would go, and I didn't even know what I was at. I was probably 8 or 9, and I was doing whatever the novena was, and it was really interesting. It was interesting because I got a lot out of it, even as a young kid. And I got a lot out of it because it was something that I was doing with my dad. When there's 6 of you, doing something by yourself is not always a thing. So I do kind of like the novena.
The Miraculous Medal. I bet you it was the Miraculous Medal novena. That's still pretty big.
That sounds like it probably is right. Again, I was a kid when we did that, and I really enjoyed that, and it's really stuck in my head. I do have I think one of the gifts I got for teaching CCD one year it's a ring that has a little cross on the one end, and it's got these bumps all around. It's actually a rosary ring.
It's a rosary ring, yeah.
I think that's awesome. I have to look and see where I put that, but I always thought it was the neatest little thing to be able to have that and just on your finger and do that without, kind of a little more subtle way of doing it, which I thought was cool.
Now, have you ever prayed the breastplate of St. Patrick?
I have not.
Oh, that's a beautiful prayer. Kevin is very Irish and fully embraces his Irish heritage. And it's pretty cool. And throws one heck of a St. Patrick's Day party. You didn't hear that from me.
So the next one, that prayer should come out at some point.
Yes, the breastplate of St. Patrick is a beautiful, beautiful prayer. It's a beautiful prayer. You can look it up on Google.
I will be looking it up.
It's great. It's great. In fact, there was a point in time that I was praying that every day.
Now, is there a particular, it's just nice, or is it, is there a particular thing you pray that for?
It's just a prayer to pray. It's asking for God's intercession. So Flo, thank you for thank you for watching, Flo. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
And it's a protection from God for, by God from like the evil in the world. And it's also a proclamation of the Trinity. It starts off with praying to the threeness and the oneness and the threeness. It's very, very cool. It's very cool.
I will be looking up that as soon as I get off this. So that's not to rush this off. I'm just saying that's that's my next thing to do is I'm anxious to read that.
Okay, and the comments are going back. Oh, backwards. Okay, that's what that's like. Okay, so sorry, I'm just looking at because I have you on my laptop here. I've got my computer over here. I'm watching us on delay just to make sure everything comes out all right. And the comments are instead of going to top to bottom, are going from bottom to top. So it just confused me for a little bit. Okay, so I have these little questions. They're from Poddex. They're not an official sponsor of anything we do. From poddex.com. I do plug them every time I use them. Maybe someday, who knows? We might have an official sponsor. Okay, I've asked that question before. Let's see if we can find one unique. Okay, so. Kevin Dillon, this is your question. Your question is this. What would be your best day ever?
I don't know. I got to think about that. I think, you know what? Taking the family to Ireland would probably be my best day ever, I think.
So what year was that when you took everybody to Ireland?
No, I haven't. Oh, one that I've had, or what that would be?
Yeah, one that you've had.
A one that I've had.
Although I guess no. What would be your best day ever? I guess that would be it. Yes, taking your whole family to Ireland as a kind of a dream. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, it'd be great to. I mean, now then Riley will be 21 in February. It'd be nice to go over with the family all as adults and just kind of go and spend some time over there. It's something we've all wanted to do at some point, but we haven't been able to do it. All four of us haven't been available at the same time. It would be really nice to get the family together and go on a vacation like that.
And it would be great if you brought a priest. Like he would pay his own way, but like I would, he would be able to say mass for you.
That's a certain possibility. It's
my cousin Nancy asked Kevin, was there a teacher by the name of Jen Conahan when you were at Ryan?
That I don't think I had him, but that sounds familiar. I believe he was there. I was there. I graduated in 81. So from 78, I guess, 77 to 81.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. When you do go to Ireland, like what's the one thing that you want to see when you go to Ireland? What do you think?
You know what? I like similar to we went to my wife's paddle boat team, which is her breast cancer group. A couple of years ago, they had an international thing in Italy, and it was things that were set up to do. But I like to do things like the way when we had downtime, Barb and I did my vacation type. And if we were in Ireland, do a couple things that you want to do, but stroll through the countryside and just pull up to a town and check out, just float and see what happens. Sometimes nothing happens. Sometimes it's the best day ever. It really is. And you never know. You always leave yourself open for what can happen. I think one of the most bizarre stories that my parents had, and my uncle and my aunt, they were in Ireland just driving around and they got lost, and there was a barn. So they pulled over to get directions, and they walked into this little antechamber, and there was a funeral or a wake going on. And they were like, we're really sorry. But we're lost and we didn't mean to interrupt. And so they gave them the directions, and they said, why don't you come over here? And they invited them over because it was like an Irish wake. It was like a party. So they got invited to a wake by just happened to stroll in. It's like that. You don't plan that kind of a trip. And I having it too structured, you want to have things there so you get certain things done, don't do anything. But I like to go and just see what's available, see if something's happening up the road, and just leave it open to experience what is. When we were in Italy, we took a stroll and we ended up in this little wine shop that was the smallest place ever. It was like it was a larger phone booth, and like people were having glasses of wine. They were actually out on the street drinking. There was no place to drink it in there, and we stopped in, and we were there for like an hour. And there was a guy from Texas that spoke Italian, and he translated for us. And it was probably one of the highlights of the trip. But we just were walking to go to a restaurant that we never made it to because we were hanging out there. And there was no rush to, it would be like to stay, but we got to go to this restaurant. We just left ourselves open to experience what was thrown at us. And that's the way I like to do vacations.
And you didn't have to make a reservation at the restaurant in Italy anyway. So, I mean,
no.
Sometimes they do, but
No, and we got really good wine there, and we brought it home. It was fantastic. So, and the guy was real proud of it. It was his wine. He made it, and we were talking to him about it, and we just got into these discussions. And we could have done that, except that we were starving, and we eventually had to go get something to eat. We could have hung out there all night and just chatted, and the locals came in, and just if they didn't speak English, we had somebody that could help us.
Cool. So, and Nancy says that Jim left Ryan and moved next door to me in October 1981. He came to South Jersey to work at Caesars Casino.
Nice.
From education to the casinos, as my grandmother would say.
It's a different type of education.
Well, Kev, we made it to an hour.
We did.
So good job. Good job.
I didn't pass or anything.
Yeah. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to share with the good people?
No, just, I mean, if you're, if you're looking at the faith or questioning faith, always stick with it. I've there's always, as you said earlier, there's bumps in the road, but if you stick with it, it's very fulfilling. And I think it's gotten me where I am today. And I have no regrets of following my faith since I was born, or as far as I can remember anyway. All
right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Father Rob Sinatra. This is my good friend. I was going to call you Father Kevin Dillon.
No, the answer was no when I asked that question.
You were watching Portraits of Faith for November the 12th, 2020. This is from the Facebook page of St. Padre Pio Parish. We're also streaming live at the moment on the Robert Sinatra channel on YouTube. If you are watching on YouTube, please hit like and subscribe, or I'll follow and subscribe. Hit the notification bell so that you can see when we go on live again. Kevin, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We had a good crowd tonight. Thanks for all the questions.
Thanks. It was blessed.
Take care. God bless, and enjoy the rest of your Thursday evening.
Thanks.